Alright, good night to everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alright, great. So, we're finished with the first two topics for paper 2, but remember, paper 1 covers basically all your topics. So, we're finished with computer fundamentals and networking. I have 4 recordings so far. The fourth one is currently being uploaded. So, if you missed any part of those, you can watch it back. So we're starting with the implications of misuse and cybersecurity. So we're looking at the third topic. Let me get the textbook open. Right. So remember, the session is for you guys. So if I will be going a little fast. So you gotta tell me if you want me to repeat something to clarify what I said, or you want to ask a question. Feel free to type it in the chat, or you can unmute and ask me. Are we good? We're good with that?
Yes, sir.
Alright, good. So, the implications of misuse and cybersecurity. Our first topic, computer vulnerability. Now, why are we looking at computer vulnerability? Well, um, organizations spend considerable amount of time and money trying to make sure the information systems are secure against hazards, both natural and man-made. The key point here, we have computers, and the computers are very expensive. The computers has a lot of information that we want to keep safe. Now, situations can arise where it will cause damage to those systems. Those hazards can be in the form of natural hazards. So, for example, an earthquake, a volcano, a flood, or it could be man-made. Somebody made a virus. Somebody take a bat and swing it towards your computer and hit your computer. Those are natural and man-made hazards. Now, the importance of securing computer systems, their data, and their network access to the internet cannot be overstated. So what do we try to protect? We try to protect the computer system. 1, we try to protect the data. 2, and we try to protect the network access. The computer system is very expensive, so we try to protect that. The data is precious to us, it's valuable. We want to protect that. And why are we protecting the network? We're protecting the network because if any bad person is to get access to this network, they can access all of our resources. Remember, if somebody gets onto your network, they can see what is happening on your network. And that is why when you're connected to the internet, you have to be safe when you're using the internet, because persons can hack you over the internet, which is a network. Now, what is a computer vulnerability? A vulnerability is when something has a weakness, when something has a flaw, and you're going to take advantage of it to cause it to damage or break down or something along that line. So computer vulnerability is when a system, when the computer system, when the connectivity among those systems has a weakness or it has a flaw. So when the desktop, the laptop has a flaw, when even the network, when that has a flaw, that is computer vulnerability. Why do persons try to take advantage of this weakness? They want to gain access into the computer. Why? To look at your data. You have information on how many items you're selling, how many all your customer information, all of your passwords, your email. They want all of that information, or they want to damage your system. So when somebody is attacking you, when somebody is taking advantage of your computer system, they're trying to do one of two things. 1, to gain access into your system, to gain the data in your system, or two, to destroy the system or destroy the data. Or they could do both. They take your data and then destroy the system so that they put you at a disadvantage. So that is what they try to do. Destroy the system or the data. Now, the fact that the system is exposed to the possibility of theft or damage is its vulnerability. So if you leave a computer out in the open, that is a vulnerability. You leave your phone without a password, that is a vulnerability. You just put down your phone for 1 second and look away to tie your shoe, that is a vulnerability. Anything that you do to put your device, your data at risk, that is a vulnerability. Now, a computer system vulnerability includes hardware. So if the hardware has a flaw, weakness, that is its vulnerability. If the software has a flaw or a weakness, that is its vulnerability. If the data communication, which is basically the network, if that has a weakness, the router, the modem, the firewall, if all of those have a weakness, that is its vulnerability. Even the user, if you do not treat your system good, that is its vulnerability. You got a cup of coffee, a cup of water right now next to your computer, that is its vulnerability. What if you hit the water down on the computer? You damage the computer right there and then. That is its vulnerability. Anything you do to put a system at a state of being damaged or anything along that line is a vulnerability. Now, vulnerabilities of systems and the data can be classified into two forms: internal and external. In external, meaning it's outside of your control, you cannot prevent it, which is basically your natural form of hazards. So what are some forms of external vulnerability? Well, natural disasters, natural phenomena, floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. Those are your external sources of vulnerability. You cannot control them. You can't protect against them. Not that you cannot, but it's very hard to put systems in place, especially when a flood comes, a hurricane, a volcano erupts, earthquake. Not so much that we can do unless we move to another country or set up a system in another country. Our next type of external source: lack of protection from power surges, spikes. So basically electrical problems. So a power surge and a spike is basically a excess in the electricity that we're supposed to get. We know that the normal electricity is supposed to be 110 volt or 220. So anything that goes above that is considered a surge or a spike. Now, there's a difference between a surge and a spike. A surge or a spike, can't remember clearly at this moment in time. Let me verify that quickly. One basically lasts longer than the other. So let me verify that quickly. They're both the same, but one lasts longer than the other. A surge and spikes, both examples of overvoltage. A spike, also referred to, is a short overvoltage. So that means the surge will basically last longer. When we say longer, we don't mean like hours, we don't mean minutes, we're talking about seconds. So the if you notice, the spike is a billionth to a millionth of a second, so less than a second. And the surge might last for maybe what, a 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, and so on. So that's the difference there between them. So a spike just shoots up and that's it, whereas a surge can last just a slightly little longer. Now, the next type of external source, that is terrorist attack. You can't tell somebody when to not bomb your computer or bomb your building or just try to destroy your building or try to commit arson. That can happen at any time. For instance, you have a competitor, they don't like you, they would try to destroy your company, try to destroy your building. So those are our external sources of vulnerability. There's not so much we can put in place to prevent them. Now, our internal source of vulnerabilities, these are much more closer to the computer system. These are much more of what is like everyday scenarios. So errors made by employees. So you're typing in information, you mistype a word. Um, you accidentally press the delete key. You rest a book on your computer. It rests on the delete key, starts deleting your entire assignment. You did not back up your data. You're doing an entire assignment, you're doing an entire project, you never backed it up. You never save it to OneDrive, you never save it to Google Drive. And then the computer crash. How are you getting back this file? You can't. Or unless you take it to a technician and they try to retrieve the file. Next we have hardware and software not kept in locked rooms. They don't have any password. That's a user error there. You don't put your computer in a safe place. You put your computer under the forum, you leave your computer in the classroom, and you expect to go back and see your computer. You have your phone, you have your laptop without a password, and you think it's okay because you always got the device on you, but one day you forget the device and somebody pick it up and gone with it, but now they can access it. Why? Because you didn't put a password, you didn't lock the device. Internal source of error. Another one, the software that you're using might have some sort of bug, might have some sort of flaw, and it could damage your data. So say for instance you're working in Microsoft Word, you type in an assignment, say the Word has a bug, Word crashes. And yes, we know Word has autosave, but there's only so much it can save. But when it crashes, you lose some part of your assignment, you lose some form of your data. Your system doesn't have an antivirus. So you're using a system, but you never download an antivirus to protect your system. So you're browsing the internet every day, you pick up a virus, and that affects your system. Next point, former employees, password and security information. You do not remove it from the system. This one here is a bit technical. When you're working for an organization or a business, they would give the employee a username and a password to access the computers. So say for instance the IT lab has different computers, they would give you a username and password to access the computer so that you can access the network and the server and so on. So only persons with the username and password can access that network or that computer. Now the person leaves the company, but you never remove the username and password from the system so that nobody could misuse it and pretend to be the person and try to access the network. So that's what this point here is saying. When you don't remove that account, then persons can go and use it and access the system. Say for instance the person that left the company, they got fired because of some reason, they tell one their friend who's still working there they could use this account, they log in and they take data, they destroy the data, whatever they want to do with it. The last point, employees who attempt to fraudulently obtain money using the company's name, for example receiving payments. So say for example you're working at Amazon and you reach out to some customer and you say that your order is being delayed and you need to pay $50 more to ship it faster. When in fact the item is going as normal, nothing's wrong with the item, but you working there, you trying to trick somebody into giving you money so that you can process the item faster or attempt or claim to process the item faster. So once again, a vulnerability is when a system has a weakness, has a flaw, something is going to go wrong with that system. And we have two categories of it: external, those you cannot control, those that are like floods, power surges, terrorist attack, and then you have internal sources, which is more of a human error. Are we clear on all of that? You following on all that?
Yes, sir.
Great. So next we're going to look at threats and security. What is a security threat now? A security threat is basically trying to take advantage of that vulnerability. We just learned what's a vulnerability. Now a threat is to take advantage of that vulnerability. So say for instance the vulnerability is leaving my computer under the forum and just walking away. That's the vulnerability. leaving my computer out in the open and anybody could go and pick it up. That's the vulnerability. Now, the threat is when somebody is going to walk towards that computer and try to pick it up and take it away. That is the threat. So, the vulnerability, leaving it exposed to some weakness or flaw. And the threat is when somebody is going to take advantage of it. So, it indicates a possible danger to one or more computer system, by extension a network. So even the network, the computer system can be exposed to a threat. Now, what is computer security? Computer security is the protection of the hardware and software against the accidental or deliberate damage, theft, or corruption. So, computer security, you're trying to prevent that threat. You're protecting the against that vulnerability. That is computer security. So, a computer is made up of hardware and software and all the other components, the data, the information, and so on. So, computer security, you're protecting the hardware, you're protecting the software against the security threat. You're trying to prevent the vulnerability from being taken advantage of. That is computer security. Now, data security, as the name implies, is protecting data against intentional or accidental damage. So notice those key words there. Intentional, accidental damage. So intentional, somebody may want to destroy your data. So they infect your system with a virus. They don't like you, to destroy your data. Or accidental, you accidentally press the delete key and it deletes the file. That is accidental damage. So it's the same here with accidental and deliberate. Deliberate meaning the person wants to carry out that damage. Now, computer users can represent the greatest threat to a company's computer system. So the user, you are the greatest threat to a computer system because you can do some of the most damage. You are the ones that are using it the most, and you are the ones that can actually put the computer at risk, put the device at risk. So that is why what companies would do is ensure that only authorized persons can access the computer systems. They say that only this certain employee should access the system. Why? Because they want to minimize who is using the system, to minimize the vulnerabilities, to minimize the risk. Now, computer networks are structured so that each user, and this is another method of securing the system, to ensure that each user have access only to the various programs and data they need for performing their duty. So basically, they're saying that you can only access what you need to do your work. If all you need is to access a database to do your work, you can't do anything else. You can't play a game, you can't browse the internet, you can't play music, you can't watch video, nothing. Why? Because they want to minimize you doing something else that's going to affect the system. So what they do, they limit you to what you can do on the system. They give you only what you need to do your work. That's a method of protecting the system. So each user, for example, is provided with a username and password with which they can log in to use the network resource. So that's another method. Give them a username and password. So one, only person that has this username and password can access the system. And two, they can know who is accessing the system because the username and password identifies you. So that when you access the system, you do something bad, they know that you would have done this action. Now, what is a deliberate damage? As I said already, deliberate, you want to commit this act. So one of the most famous deliberate act of damage is hacking. Hacking is the method of hacking is basically unauthorized access and use of network or standalone systems. So basically, unauthorized access. Persons put passwords on the computer for a reason. They put a firewall on their network for a reason. They put a password on their Wi-Fi for a reason. Why? Because they don't want you to access it. Now, when you're going to try to bypass that, that is called hacking. You are not authorized. Once you do not have the password to access something, you are an unauthorized person. So when you try to get access, when you try to force yourself in, that is called hacking. Now, deliberate damage can occur when there is a planned attempt to bypass legitimate access restrictions. They put up a lock, even a lock on a door, a padlock on a door. That is deliberate damage. The lock on the door is to stop you from going in, but you are trying to bypass it. That's deliberate damage. This damage usually occurs when security monitoring is not enforced. Network access logs should be maintained by network administrator to observe resources being used. So this is what I was talking about. Network access logs. When you log on to the network, when you type in that password and username, they know when you log on. They know what you're doing on the computer. So the network administrator now is going to monitor what you're doing on the network so that they can trace who is doing what and with the resources, what time, and so on, so that they can minimize any risks. Now, these software access restrictions are necessary to ensure system security. Now, what is accidental damage? This happens through genuine errors. You don't want to damage the system, but you're clumsy, you're a little paggly, and you got a cup of water next to the computer, and you move a little bit and you knock the cup gone on the computer. So you overwrite some sort of your recent data. You put a book on the computer, it gone in the delete key or it gone in some other key, overwrite your data. You enter incorrect command. You're supposed to be doing something on your computer, you accidentally type something wrong, you put in the wrong command, you click the wrong button, that affects the system. That is accidental damage. Damage also occurs as a result of viruses transferred from secondary storage or via the internet. So maybe you browse the internet or you collect a game from your friend and the file got a virus. That's accidental. Or you could say it's deliberate. Maybe the person put the virus into the file. The person put the virus on the flash drive so that as soon as you plug it in, it infects the system. But if the friend didn't know that it had a virus and you plug it in, get infected, that is accidental. Now, what is data communications? Data communication, a valuable information is transferred via electronic channels to save time. So data communication is basically transferring data. Now, information is often needed to make vital decisions that depend on the content of the information. However, all electronic transmissions can be intercepted by persons other than the intended receiver. Such efforts may represent deliberate attempt to access sensitive information. So you make a phone call, you send an email, you make a WhatsApp call, you make a Skype call, and persons try to intercept that call, to hear what you're saying, to see what you're transferring, to get that data. Now, another term, what is cyber threat? So we looked at security threat. Now, what is a cyber threat? A cyber threat is an unauthorized attempt to access a system, device, or network via the internet. That key point there, via the internet. So it's the same as security threat. You're taking advantage of this vulnerability. But the key point for cyber threat, you are doing it over the internet. Whenever you hear the word cyber, think of internet. Cyber is related to the word internet. Now, cybersecurity, I'm pretty sure you guys can figure out what that is. So cybersecurity is trying to prevent that cyber threat, or trying to stop threats in general that is going to affect the computer, affect the network, and so on. Now, it protects the network by maintaining logs. Remember I talked about logs earlier. You can monitor who's using what, doing what. It tries to protect against attempted breaches. Breaches meaning persons trying to hack into the system. So cybersecurity is putting up systems that would try to prevent persons from hacking your system. It monitors source of attack. So if a person tries to hack you, they can try to figure out where the attack is coming from. It's coming from Russia, coming from India, coming from America. Where is the source? And it even tries to protect you against future ones. How is it going to protect you against future ones? Well, when it maintains this log, when it monitors what the person is doing, what the person is trying to do, they're going to put systems in place to try to reinforce. Like, say the person is trying to break into your computer, they're trying to guess what's your password. The protecting against that in the future is to try to make a stronger password. They're trying to hack into your system, so you put up more security, you put up a firewall, you put up other software that is going to protect against these persons here. Great. So that's the end of this chapter here. So you guys clear on what is cybersecurity, cyber threat, deliberate accidental damage? We good there?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now the misuse of information. We all have information. We all have data. How do persons misuse their information? What are they going to do with their information? How do they try to get their information? That's what we're going to try to look at now. So, organizations gather information from a wide variety of sources. They gather information from their employees, their customers, their suppliers, their competitors. All the time we're gathering information. What's their name? What's their address? What's their phone number? What's their email? We as persons, we have information, we have data, we have pictures, we have videos, we have our assignments, we have so much data. Now when people voluntarily provide information to organization, it's usually for a specific part. So basically, in most cases, we give out our information freely. For example, when you go to hospital and clinic, you give all your personal information freely. You give all the accident and all the injuries that happened years ago. You give them out freely. You give out your name, your father name, your mother name, your address, everything you give freely. But what will these companies do now with this information? Do they try to protect it? What do they do with it? Now, these companies, they're supposed to protect this information. But however, security breaches occur. Security breach is basically somebody committing a cyber threat, a cyber crime, a security threat. They're trying to break into the system, hack into the system, and get the data. Now, the use of information for purposes, basically, these organizations, these businesses, they collect your data, yes, and they're supposed to protect it. It's personal data. But what some companies do, they use the data for other reasons other than what it was originally intended for. So you give the hospital all your personal information, but they might give it to somebody else. They might give it to what? Like, say for instance, a hospital, they might give it to an insurance company and say that, oh, look, this person has so injury. He might be interested in this kind of insurance. You give your information to a bank, and the bank might say that, look, this person doesn't have any insurance also. They sell that information to an insurance company. All of that happens today. You give companies your information. So it's not only hackers take your information, companies would sell your information. Now, what is proprietary data and software? Proprietary data and software is basically software that is created and owned by a company. Now, it is data, software developed and used exclusively by an organization. Proprietary basically meaning that they own something. You own something, the company owns something. So proprietary data, it's something you own, something that belongs to you. So as you as a person, your proprietary data might be your pictures, your videos, anything that you create, anything that you have, any information about you. That's your proprietary data. Now, proprietary software, that is going to be if somebody made a software, somebody made a game. It belongs to them. So Now, when persons go and try to misuse it, they're infringing upon that right of that person because it doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the original owner. Now, what is computer fraud? Remember, once again, you guys have any questions, you need me to repeat anything, let me know. Now, what is computer fraud? Computer fraud is basically a general heading, a general topic that refers to a series of methods of trying to gain a person's data, um, or trying to misuse information. It's a series of methods persons try to misuse your information. So one example of computer fraud, we have a series of examples. We have propaganda, we have identity theft, financial abuse, phishing attack, industrial espionage, denial of service. Those are all methods of computer fraud. So our first one, propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda is basically sharing information. You know what's propaganda? You hear propaganda, person talking things about you. That is propaganda. They say that how you don't like this person, you would beat up this person. So companies do that. Companies do that with other companies. They say that how KFC don't sell good chicken, McDonald's they sell horse meat, all sort of things you would hear. Why? Because they want to bring down the company, they want to affect the sales of the company, all to affect that company. Now, propaganda could be beneficial, it could be harmful, because you're doing it for the benefit of yourself. As a company, you might say that KFC is doing this, Popeyes is doing that. Why? So that they leave that company and come to yours for your benefit. And you're doing it for harm. You're trying to harm that company. You're trying to harm that person. So propaganda is when you're sharing stories, when you're sharing rumors, when you're sharing lies, when you're sharing half-truth. Could even be a truth. But the aim of it is trying to benefit somebody or trying to harm somebody or a company or an organization. Now, what is identity theft? We know what is identity. Identity is something that represents you, information that represents you. Now, when you're on the internet, persons cannot see who you are. They don't know what you look like. So, your personal information represents you on the internet. Your name, your address, your phone number, your credit card, your date of birth. All of these personal details is what identifies you on the internet. So that is why persons try to steal this information. Even your email address, that is what identifies you. So persons try to steal this identity, steal this information, so that they can use it and act as you. Now, so they're going to take this information. What are they going to do? They're going to make expensive purchases. They're going to transfer money. They're going to try to act as you to carry out some sort of action. Now, how can we prevent identity theft now? Well, check your bank statement. If you check your bank statement and you see some sort of purchase, some sort of transfer that you don't even know about, you see on the bank statement, $100 was being used to buy Pokemon cards on eBay. You know you don't even like Pokemon cards, but you see $100 being used to buy Pokemon cards on eBay. That there's a sign somebody's using your account. So when you check your bank statement, that shows you when you made transfers, when you made transactions, and so on. Ensure your website is secure. How do we know our website is secure? Well, one way is that you would see this basically this padlock here. That indicates that's one way to indicate the website is secure. Another way is when you look at this protocol here, HTTP, and notice the S at the end. The S at the end stands for secure. It's a secure version of the hypertext transfer protocol. The S indicates it's a secure website. So once you ensure your website is secure, that can help you to prevent identity theft. That can help you to ensure you're not on a fake website, because you actually need to carry out certain actions in order to secure your website. But that doesn't mean a hacker cannot get a secure website. But that's just one method there. Third method, do not make online purchases with your main funds. So say you have one bank account with 1 billion inside. Do not use this bank account to make purchases. Set up another account, put 100,000 inside of this account, and make your purchases with this account here. Have a secondary account to carry out online transactions. And lastly, do not use any public computers to carry out personal tasks. So those of you who like free Wi-Fi, you gotta be careful when you're doing personal activities on it. When you're doing online shopping and your personal information is being sent across it, you have to be careful with that. Give me 1 second, 1 minute. I'll be back. Yes, I'm back. So, yeah, do not use public computers. Why? Because public computers, anybody can access it. You go and you do your transactions, you put in your email, you put in your password, certain informations are saved. You know that when you sign into Google, your Google account is saved. Persons, some hackers, all they need is your email address, because once again, your email address identifies you. So you gotta be careful when you're doing actions on personal computer. More so, free Wi-Fi. Why? Excuse me. Because persons can see what you're doing on a network. So when you access a free Wi-Fi, anybody's on the Wi-Fi, and they can see what you are doing on that network. And they can collect your data, and basically you have a security breach there on your device. Now next we have financial abuse. So this is kind of similar to the identity theft. These persons, they try to gain unauthorized access to your financial accounts, and they will try to change the details to their advantage, so they might transfer money, make purchases, and so on. So basically they gain access to your account, and they try to use it as their own. Now next we have phishing attack. Now why is it called phishing? Because it's similar to actual fishing. Fishing, we cast a lure, we cast some sort of bait to attract a fish. Similarly, with a phishing attack, you cast a lure, you cast some sort of you do carry out some sort of action that is going to catch somebody's interest, that's going to lure somebody in, bait somebody in. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to trick that person into getting their personal information. This is the main point here. You're luring the person, getting their interest, to trying to put in their personal information. So all of those messages that you guys see, you're the 1,000th viewer and you just win an iPhone, KFC is having a promotion, you just win a whole bucket of chicken. Those are all phishing attacks. They're trying to give you some sort of bait. They're luring you with something that you like, something that you might be interested in, so that you can click on it. You gotta put in your information so that you can win whatever. And the main goal, remember, is to get your information. That's all they want. So when you type in your name, type in your address, type in your email, that is all they want. So it may look like it's coming from the official organization, like such as a bank, university, but they're trying to trick you into getting your information. Now, a denial of service. What is the denial of service? As the name implies, you are being denied of a service. So for example, CXC website. CXC offers a service every year when you finish writing CXC to view your results. But when a lot of persons go on this website to try to view the information, they cannot view it. Why? Because too much persons are on the website. So they're not getting access to the service. They're being denied of the service. So denial of service, you can think of it as being carried out in two ways. One, you're being denied of the service in two ways. So computer's moving a bit slow. There's a zoom option. Yeah. So say for instance this is YouTube. This is YouTube here. Now say YouTube could handle what 1,000 viewers. 1,000 viewers, and say for instance there's 500 people in the world. We're just using these figures, rough figures. So YouTube can handle 1,000 persons. There's 500 persons in the world, and YouTube comfortably handling all these 500 persons. Now what a hacker is going to do, he's going to fake sending in 1,000 persons. He's going to fake sending in 1,000 persons. So when you, a legitimate user from this 500, try to access the service, you don't get in. You don't get to use it. Why? Because the hacker full up the service. So you're being denied of the service. So this is a deliberate denial of service. The hacker is trying to prevent you from accessing the service. It's deliberate. But not all denial of service is deliberate. Like for example, the CSEC website. That's not deliberate. It's not deliberate that everybody going on at the same time and trying to deny other persons access. It just happens because too many persons are going on. So that's more of an accidental form of denial of service. But the main takeaway is that denial of service is when you are being denied because too much information is being processed by the system. So once again, like the image shows, the system could only handle 1,000 persons, but they keep sending information to the system so that they has to keep processing this information. And when a legitimate information come in, a legitimate person comes in, they cannot use the service. You guys think you understand denial of service there?
Yes, sir.
Great. So, what are the signs of denial of service? How can you tell? Well, based on everything I just said, if the network performance goes down, network performance meaning you being able to download something, you being able to transfer something, if that performance goes down, that is a sign of denial of service. Say for instance, you just normally access this website comfortably. You click on the link, it opens in 1 second, 2 seconds. But for some reason, just like the CSEC website, it take 1 minute, 2 minutes, and it's still loading. That is a sign of denial of service. Another sign, difficulty or inability to access the website. So once again, you click on the link, and the page not even loading, keep crashing, it's saying error all the time. That is another sign. And lastly, if you're receiving a lot of emails, this is one of the main method they carry out denial of service. They send you a lot of junk email. So remember, the system has to process all of these emails. So while it is processing all of these email, when you're gonna send in your email now, it might not even reach. And when it does reach, it might not even process it properly. It might not even get to process it. Why? Because it's focusing on all of these junk emails that are being sent. Or even, it could even be like YouTube. The person sending all of the email to YouTube, and when you go in and watch a video, the video not even playing, YouTube is not even loading. So, because remember, the system focusing on the email. It can't focus on sending you the video. So that's how you can tell that. Now this results in inconvenience to a majority of users on the network, although the person who caused the attack usually attempt to sabotage only the organization or the individual. It's usually the service they try to bring down, not you, the person, because it's you. Just using the service, but it's more of the company that has the service they would try to bring down. Now, what is industrial espionage? Another form of computer fraud. Espionage is basically spying. So, industrial espionage is trying to gain an advantage over competitors by illicitly gaining access to information. What kind of information? Their marketing strategies, their research, their expansion plans, and so on. So you're spying on this company to gain their information, their marketing strategy, their research, the 7 herbs and spices, how did it make the chicken, how did it make the CPU, all of this information, they're hacking in to try to get it. Now in the past, persons would try to break in physically, and they would take photographs of the documents, and they would try to hack in the system and try to take the data. But today we know persons, they hack over the internet. They hack into the organization to try to get the data. So what is industrial espionage? Spying on the company, trying to get their personal information. Electronic eavesdropping. As the name implies, you're eavesdropping on somebody, you're listening to the conversation, but you're doing it electronically. So you're using some form of device, you're using some form of electronic device to monitor their electronic communication. So somebody making a call over WhatsApp, you use some method to try to monitor it. The same communication we have right now. We have a Google Meet call. Somebody's trying to use some form of technology to monitor this call. So that is called electronic eavesdropping. So communications via voice, fax, phone, email. Once you're trying to eavesdrop on those communications, that is electronic eavesdropping. So whether they're using telephone line, radio waves, and so on, whatever method of communication, and you're trying to listen to it, that is electronic eavesdropping. So a method of preventing electronic eavesdropping is to encrypt the data, encrypt the system. That is why when you open a WhatsApp message, it will tell you that this chat is encrypted. Why? So that you can feel more secure. You can know that when you are sending your message, it's being sent encrypted. For those who might not know what's encrypted, encrypting basically means to rearrange the data, to scramble the data. So when it is sent, persons cannot understand it. Only the person who is receiving it, that person is going to decrypt that data, and only that person will be able to understand it. Now, another form of computer fraud is software and music piracy, something that happens a lot today. So piracy is basically taking something and using it for your own personal gain without giving compensation back to the person. So for example, all of the movies, all of the series, all of the music and so on that we just freely take off of the internet and watch for free, when in fact we're supposed to be paying for them. The games and the software that we just download and we crack and so on, that is called software and music piracy, because we do not give compensation back to the original creator. Now, unauthorized access, that is basically hacking. Unauthorized access. You put up some sort of security, you put a password, some sort of security mechanism, trying to restrict persons, but they want to bypass that. That is called hacking there. Now, the hacking involves trying to electronically break into a system which the individual does not have authorized access. The purpose behind this infiltration varies. Some hackers see this activity as a form of game playing, where they match computer skills against those of an adversary, just gain access is sufficient for them. Others are more destructive in their intention, They target organizations that are antagonists and commit acts of electronic vandalism. So they try to destroy the data, they try to destroy the system. Good. So that is it for this chapter here once again. So we just looked at how persons try to misuse your data. We looked at what is proprietary data and what are the various types of computer frauds. Are you guys good in all that?
Yes, sir.
Good. Alright, our next chapter. So data protection now. So we just learned all the various methods that persons will try to attack us, take our data. Now how can we protect against that now? So whether a threat is deliberate or accidental, all methods should be taken to prevent it from occurring or to minimize its effect. A countermeasure is a procedure, either physical or logical, that recognizes, reduces, and eliminates the threat. So a countermeasure is something you're going to put in place. Could be physical, could be a lock on the door, you grill all the windows, that is physical. You're trying to prevent persons from breaking in. Or could be logical, you put on a password, you put on some sort of software that's going to protect you from attackers. So it's either going to try to recognize the threat, reduce the threat, or eliminate the threat entirely. That's what the countermeasure is going to try to do. So we already know what's data protection. It's basically protecting our data against loss or damage. Now another form of protection is going to be data protection laws. So not only the software protection and the hardware protection, we also have laws that can protect our data. So these laws include intellectual property rights. So intellectual property. So under the intellectual property, we have various forms of protection. So these are the laws that are used to protect us. So intellectual property is a category of property that includes intangible creations and human intellect. Alright, you don't need to focus on all that. Just know it's a category of laws that can be used to protect your data. What are some of the laws? This includes copyright, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets. And there are a few more laws that we can use to protect. So, but these are the main ones here. Copyright. This is used to protect creative work, like your music, your movie, any books that you would create, any educational work that you would create, you would use copyright. So each one of these intellectual property actually protects a different form of data. A patent is more of protecting designs. So, like for instance, if Apple designs the next iPhone, the schematic of that next iPhone is called, they would release it to the public and they would say that is a patent. So nobody could design a phone like that. A trademark is any form of sign, any form of logo, anything that's going to be used to represent the company, represent the item. That is a going to be protected by a trademark. So a person's name or the item name or the logo or the slogan, those are protected by a trademark. And then trade secrets, these are for basically protecting the personal information of that company. So those are the data protection laws. Now, another method of protecting your data is surveillance, computer surveillance. Basically, setting up cameras, camera systems, or software to monitor the system. So some forms of physical computer surveillance are going to be the closed circuit TV monitor. So those camera systems you have in your home, the camera systems that you see in businesses and organizations, that is called closed circuit TV monitors. You set up an alarm system. So The alarm when the door open, the window open, it sounds an alarm. That can be used as a form of security. Computer control lock. So on the door has a lock. You can put in a pin. You swipe a card, and the door opens. That is a form of protection. Using biometrics, they scan the eye, they scan the fingerprint, scan the fingerprint, scan the retina, using the voice as access. Those are forms of protection. And as you mentioned, the access code, when you put the pin into the computer control lock, or you do a swipe card or some form of method, those are all methods of physical security. Now, when you set up this computer surveillance, you get some negative consequences. So yes, the camera system is going to monitor the entrances, so you can know who exit the building, so you can know who enter, who exit, who pick up what, who carrying out what, and so on. But you get some negative consequences. What are they? Loss of privacy. The person now cannot do whatever he feel like. He can't pick his nose, he can't pick his ears, because why? A camera watching you, you feel ashamed, he can't do those things. He can't go on the computer, he can't browse Facebook, he can't browse YouTube, he can't type in what he feel like. He can't watch Cocomelon because somebody might laugh at he and say, oh, look at he, and he watching Cocomelon. So you're losing privacy there. You're gonna lose security. Lack of security. Because now I always forget this point here. We can come back to that point. Surveillance, security, surveillance, security. I always forget this point here. We can come back to that one. So, potential misuse of information, possibly for monetary gain. So the person is watching you through the camera system or whatever method they're using to carry out the surveillance, and they're seeing your personal information. Remember the lack of privacy? They're seeing your information, and they're going to take it now and blackmail you, sell it, use it for personal gain. So say for instance, it's a popular person, a singer, an actress, and they're browsing their phone, and one of their pictures shows up on the phone screen. The person takes a snapshot of that, sells it on the internet, monetary gain. Now, difficulty in determining the source. Somebody could break into your home, break into your building, set up a camera system. You might not even know who is monitoring you. So that's why it's difficult to determine the source of the computer surveillance. Or even the company itself, they're monitoring you, but you don't know who's watching. There's limited measures to prevent computer surveillance. Why? Because you won't even know a camera set up right next to you in your room watching you. So you could go anywhere and a camera could be watching you. You might not even know. So there's a limited amount of things that we can do to prevent computer surveillance. Now, we can monitor or carry out computer surveillance using software. What is one method? One method is called packet sniffing. Packet sniffing is when you use some form of hardware or software to monitor the network. You're monitoring the network as data is passing through the network. So when you send your picture, when you send your video, when you go to a website and you type in your email and your password, all of that data is being sent over the internet, sent over the network. And the software now, the packet sniffer, is going to be monitoring this network. As the data travels, it's going to try to pick out these data to see what they can get from it. They try to get your what you sent. They try to get that information. So that's why they would use packet sniffing. Now, hardware methods of monitoring, so see what persons are doing, would include a keystroke logger. A keystroke logger is a physical hardware device. You have to go and plug this device into the computer itself. It's something physical. So, but when you plug this device into the computer, it records all the keystrokes of that computer. So keystrokes meaning whatever you type on the computer, it records it. So when you type in your password, when you type in the email, when you type in whatever secret information on the computer, it records it, and it could either be stored on the logger or the logger could be programmed to send out the information to whoever is would have installed the keystroke logger. So those are our methods of how persons can, well, it's kind of how persons can take advantage of your data also, but it's kind of how you can protect your data too, because you can use these same methods for good and for bad. Now, protection from nature. How can you protect your data from nature? Well, data should be protected from natural disasters, including fire, dust, and so on. They can use fireproof cabinets. So if the building goes up in flame for some reason, it's going to be kept safe inside of the cabinets, so that you can store your backup of your data, your files, and so on. Computer systems should ensure they have surge protectors, so that we can prevent surges and spikes and so on. And we should also have a UPS, which is a uninterruptible power supply, so we can prevent damages from power surges. We should not let, when we get blackouts, the computer shuts off just like that. That can cause damage to a system. So that's why we should ensure that the system is on a UPS, which is also called a battery backup. But the correct name is an uninterruptible power supply, so that power continues to go to the system just enough so that you can shut down the system properly to prevent any damage. Now, how can we protect against theft? Basically, lock the computer, put on passwords, and even physical locks. So it's very simple to go into a desktop computer. So if we a desktop computer, you can simply slip off the open the case of a desktop computer. For those of you who might have one, you can quickly slip off this cover in here and look inside of it and take out the components, or quickly unplug the mouse, quickly unplug the keyboard, like this one here. You can just slide off the cover, take everything inside. So what companies would do, they would put on physical locks on the system, lock down the keyboard, lock down the mouse, lock the system, so no persons can take any part of the computer. So they would put physical lock and software locks also, and they would even limit access. So only certain persons can go into this room and be able to use this computer here. Now, a computer virus, how can we protect against that? What is that? A computer virus is a program, a software. It's going to infect computer files, make them do something unexpected or damaging. So a virus is basically a program that is going to carry out some form of malicious action. Now, a copy of the virus program is inserted in a computer file, and when the file is used, it's loaded into memory, and that's how the system becomes infected. So the virus is going to be in a file. You open the file, and that's how the file gets into the memory of the computer, and your system becomes infected, because from that memory it can go anywhere from the computer. So if one of the infected file is sent by email or given to other users on a device such as a USB, then other computers are infected and the virus spreads. Viruses are increasing threat to computer system. In 1986, there was one known virus in 1986. But today, we actually have hundreds and thousands of computer viruses appearing every single day. What are the types of viruses? We have viruses that infect a program file. The virus code is attached to the program file, and when the program is loaded, the virus is loaded. So we know that program file refers to when you go and click on one of these programs here, you click on Microsoft Word, you click on Excel, it would have a file with a .exe extension. So like this here, this file has a .exe extension. That means it's a program file. When you open it, it opens a program. So the virus infects that program. So when you open it, it infects the system. Now, you have viruses that infect the system or the boot files. So when the computer boots up, when the computer starts up, it has certain files that it uses to start up. So those boot files become infected by the virus. So at the very beginning, when you're starting up your computer is already infected with a virus. Then we also have macroviruses. These are written in a language associated with the application, such as Microsoft Access. They are carried by a database file, and they are executed when it is open. So macroviruses, they're usually associated with a program, some sort of application, such as Microsoft Access. You open the file, you get infected. Now, the final type of virus is a worm. A worm, unlike a virus, does not require a program in order to be transmitted. If you notice, the macro, the system virus, the boot virus, the program virus, they all require a file. They all require a file, but the worm does not require a program or a file. Worms are transmitted via email, and they're capable of copying themselves into memory. So that's why they would always tell you, be careful when you open an email, because that is how worms are being transmitted. So you just gotta open the email, and it's going to infect your system and start sending out more worms via email. Now, how can we protect the virus? Best way to protect the virus: use an antivirus software. Carry out regular scanning of the computer. Set up the antivirus in such a way that when you download a file, it automatically scans the computer. Regularly update the antivirus, because as mentioned, we get new viruses each day, so we got to keep updating the antivirus. Do regular scans, automatically update, and basically be careful how you browse the internet. Turn on program protection. Some programs have built-in macro protection. So for example, the same database program might have a built-in macros virus protection. You turn it on to enable protection. The simple method: if you don't know where the file come from, do not open it. You get a file from your friend, scan it before you open it. Don't just go, you collect your friend file and you're browsing through it and you're just double clicking and everything. You're just asking for yourself to be infected with a virus. You download something from the internet, scan it with a antivirus. And then lastly, never open an email attachment that has these extension here, because they could be infected with a virus. Now, are you guys following me so far?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, protecting files and databases. Now, we know a database is what we use to store data, or we use to store data and information. So often database in the organization, that is its lifeblood. Basically, that's what it depends on. So it cannot lose those records. So maintaining several generations of backup as well as archives are critical files. Of all its critical files are advised. So a form of protection: ensure you back up and archive your files. Now, the master and backup files should be stored in fireproof safe, or preferably in a separate building. So protect the files in the database by making a backup. And the backup, now, don't store it in the same building. Or if you're going to store it in the same building, put it in a fireproof case, or in a case that is waterproof also. Backup and archive. What is backup? Making backup of files is always important. It depends on the database essential. Files can be damaged and corrupted and even lost, so that's why we need to ensure we back up. Good. So basically, we have important files, and we need to ensure that we back up those files regularly. How do we back up files? Well, the simple copying the file to another storage device, like for example, copying the data to a tape drive, to a CD, to your flash drive, to another hard drive. Those are methods of backing up. Or you use a cloud storage to save your data. You save your file to Google Drive, OneDrive, cloud storage, whatever method you use. Once it's being stored in another location, you are backing up your data. Now, you're going to back up your data also to prevent your external sources of vulnerability, to prevent volcanoes or earthquakes from damaging your data. Now, these are called remote data backup because you're using a totally different location to back up your data, which is called your cloud storage, or we also call it cyberspace. Cyberspace basically referring to the internet. Remember I said anything that you hear about cyber, that's referring to the internet. I mentioned online storage. Data stored online is prone to deletion. So this is a disadvantage of online cloud storage. Your data can be deleted if the company goes out of business or if something happened to the company itself. So if the company also experience external vulnerability, then you can get a loss of data. Archive. What is an archive? An archive is basically like backing up, but you're gonna put it in a location where it's not a file that you're gonna need regularly. You might need it in the next 5-10 years. You might not even use it. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna archive that file. You're gonna put it in such a place that if you ever do need it, you'll be able to retrieve it. Now, what is network and cybersecurity? Companies address cyber threats with encryption and decryption. They encode data before transmission, which is called encryption, so that it appears unintelligible. So they can't read it, they can't understand it when it is being transferred. And decryption is when you decrypt the data. You make sense of the data once again. They use what is called a key. You have an encryption key, and only the decryption key can decrypt the data. Now, users on the network can each be given a username, an individual password. Another method of protection, using a username and a password, so that only those persons with it can be able to access the files and resources. Alright, good. So, copyright and privacy. So we talked about copyright already. It's a name of a protection in law whereby the rights of the person responsible for creating the text, the music, the painting, and so on is being protected. So if you illegally copy and steal that person's work, you can actually be prosecuted by the law, and it is considered a criminal offense. It would be an offense to copy and distribute software without permission. So anytime you download, even if the software is free, it could also infringe upon copyright, because even though it's free, the person might not give you the right to share and copy this software. Even though you might not be making any money from it, the person, the creator, has the right to say what you can do with it. And if you don't follow it, you could be prosecuted by the law. Copyright software that has been bought on 2 or more computers at the same time. Basically, you buy one license for a software and you install it on 10-15 different computers. Whereas the software, the copyright, is the license is only supposed to be used on this one computer. But you install it on 10-15 different computers. You could be prosecuted for that. So the Intellectual Properties Affairs Office in every country, they are going to be responsible for enforcing these laws. So what is software privacy? You're going to steal a person's program and distribute it without any permission and use it as you feel like. Now, countries in the Caribbean, countries are enforcing copyright and privacy laws in music, printed materials, software, and so on. The main types of piracy are copying a software and trying to make it look like a genuine product. So you copy the software and you're trying to sell it back as your own. That is software piracy. You copy and sell a recordable CD. So the CD has some music, you make a copy of it, you make other copies of the CD. That is piracy. You download software from the internet. Because the software can be downloaded from certain site does not mean it is free or legal for you to download it. So, say for instance a cracked version of the software is being uploaded to a site, that doesn't give you the right to go and download it. That is still software piracy. Using software on more computers in a network than the number of computers for which they were licensed. So this is why I said earlier, you buy a license for one computer, but you go on and install it on 10, 15 different computers. That is software piracy also. You're misusing the license. Now, because all of these activities, many countries have enacted laws which will make it illegal to misuse computers. People found guilty, they're going to receive large fines, prison sentences, and even prison sentences. For example, it's illegal to do the following: deliberately plant a virus. It is illegal to do that. You can't be prosecuted by the law. You can be prosecuted by the law by illegally copying a program, can be prosecuted for hacking into a computer, committing any form of the computer crimes, the computer frauds that we talked about earlier, and using employers' computer to carry out unauthorized work. You can be prosecuted by the law. Some countries have legislation that seek to protect the individual from the potential misuse. Contents of such legislation include: information should only be used for the purpose for which it was provided. So the person that created the information has the right to say it should only be used for that purpose, and you cannot do anything else with it. Individual has the right to examine the contents of any personal records representing that individual. So you have the right, if anybody is storing any personal information from you, to examine the contents of it. You have the right to ensure that information is accurate. Information should be periodically updated, and information should not be held for longer than is necessary. All measures necessary for ensuring the security of information against physical and electronic threat should be in place, and the privacy of the individual should be protected. These are basically your rights as an individual. I think we have. Are you guys clear on all that so far? Two more
Yes, sir.
chapters. Alright, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we can continue. Just 2 more chapters for this topic here. I'll take a 5-minute break and then finish it off. Alright, so let's continue. The impact of IT in the workplace. Now, so basically, how does information technology affect the workplace? How does it help to improve the workplace? There are numerous examples of how information system play an increasingly important part in your life, from programmable television, remote control devices, e-commerce, and so on. So we have a lot of advantages. So what is social impact? Less social contact among employees. Persons are always on the computer, always on the phone. They don't interact with their employees anymore. There's a negative impact there. A large increase in the use of computer games. Persons are wasting their times. The games are addictive, but some games are educational. But so we got advantage and disadvantage here. The advantage: these persons are using it for educational purposes, entertainment purposes. But on the negative, they are wasting their time with these games. It is much easier to keep in touch with people, so that's an advantage there. You can interact with anybody around the world. But then you have privacy consideration. These companies, once again, what are they doing with my data? When I put my picture on Facebook and on Instagram and so on, what are they doing with my picture? So that's the social impact. What are the work patterns now? Um, because of the internet, we can basically work from home. We can work flexible hours. We can work like how right now we can work into the night because of the internet. Disadvantage: lack of social contact. You're always on the internet. You're always on the phone. Once again, so you don't interact with persons. Advantage: um, the company doesn't need any office space, heating, refreshments, and so on. So there's an advantage to the company. If the person working from home, the company doesn't even need a building. They could just set up a small office somewhere, and the person working from home. Another impact of IT, we have cashless society. Um, we have electronic funds today. You don't need physical money. We have electronic funds. You can use a debit and credit card. You don't need to carry any money. But the disadvantage is fraud. If your bank card is stolen, your personal information is stolen, there goes your funds. Employment impact. Um, Jobs today, practical jobs, they're on the decline. Why? Because we are developing equipment, we're developing computers and systems to do the practical skills. We're developing robots to do skills today, to do skilled based jobs. So these persons are losing their jobs. But um, because of that now, the IT systems are replacing workers. But because of that, we're getting new jobs in the IT field. So we're eliminating these skill based jobs and we're creating IT based jobs. So we need programmers, system analysts, robot maintainers, and so on. And then workers need to be retrained. So that's a disadvantage because persons need to be trained in order to use the system. So every time you lose an employee, you are going to train a new employee to use the machine. Health and safety. Attention needs to be paid to the posture problem. So I'm sure some of you aren't even sitting properly in a chair right now. Then you have radiation issues from your monitor. You're straining your eye all the time, looking at the screen. Repetitive strain injury, how you position yourself, your hand is constantly on the mouse. That can cause health issues. So those are some of the negatives and positives of IT in the workplace. Changes in the workplace. ICT revolution has brought about widespread changes in the workplace. Most offices now use computer systems, often connected via the LAN and the WAN. Most offices will therefore have their networks connected using cables or wireless technology. They use applications, processors, database, emails, phones, and so on. They use video conferencing via WAN, the internet cables, meetings to enable meetings to take place without participants having to leave their offices. Um, Computers are used in many economic sectors as the need for managing information becomes more important in these areas. Employees are required to become more skilled. So that's a disadvantage there because each and every employee now must be IT based skilled. IT is skilled in order to be effective in any workplace today. The skilled use of hardware and software is necessary for most occupations because almost everything uses a computer to carry out a task. So loss of jobs and retraining. Computers are now being used for jobs that were previously done by persons. For example, as more customers buy products online, staff in stores may be reduced because the items are being bought online. You don't need a physical location, so you don't need persons in a building selling items anymore. So the use of email gonna replace the purchase of stamps and delivery of mail. But on the other hand, we have the increase in the delivery of the purchases that we make online. So we're eliminating certain jobs where at the same time other jobs are being created. Now because of this, we have repetitive jobs such as telephone operators who direct call to office extensions. We have dangerous jobs. Um, um, Work that has been lost. So basically, the first point here, Repetitive jobs. We used to have an operator, and the operator now would listen to the call and direct you to the person that the person is trying to contact. But today, we don't need an operator. We can have a digital operator. We can have a computer. The system is going to say press 1 to get to this person, press 2 to get to this person. That is being replaced by technology. That person there. Dangerous jobs now. You don't need a person to go in and defuse a bomb or to check the extreme hot or cold of a certain temperature in a certain area. You could send in a robot. Office jobs can be automated. They take less time with IT skills. So, for example, you could create a spreadsheet, automatically do some calculations for you, saving time and energy. Now, most jobs now require ICT skills, as mentioned, for some people. So you got to be retrained every time new persons are hired, new persons are coming on. So learning to use the computer, you need typing skills, and so on. Some people take short courses, they learn on the job skills. IT skills help keep the funds in business, since completing in-house using IT saves money it would cost to outsource them. Basically, if you train your employees to have the IT skills, it's going to be more cost effective than you go in and hire somebody. You go in and outsource to a company so that they can carry out the task. So train your employees to do the task for you. What is telecommuting? Work can be accessed by employees in their location instead of by the more traditional method of traveling to work. So basically, you work any location other than the workplace. That is telecommuting. Millions of people known as telecommuters, teleworkers, remote workers. These refer to persons that do telecommuting. They now work on full-time and part-time basis at home or move around the world using a computer or mobile device to communicate with their employers and clients. So telecommuting, you're working anywhere except the office or the building of where you are employed. So the advantage of this, reduce office space. The company doesn't need a physical building anymore. The company doesn't need to pay for electricity anymore. The company doesn't need to pay for air conditioning. Basically, any expense that comes with the building, the company does not need to pay those anymore. Why? Because telecommuters are not going into that building anymore. Now, the disadvantage with telecommuters is that they have to face the expense. They have to face the electricity bill, the water bill, the internet bill, every single bill they have to face in order to work from home. But what companies would do, they would compensate the employee because they know originally the company was supposed to facilitate all of this. So what they can do, they can say that, I'll pay for your internet bill, I'll pay for your travel expenses, and so on. However, the other disadvantage is that telecommuting can be isolating. So one of the more enjoyable aspects of the job is being able to socialize. For some persons, they like socializing. So when you're telecommuting, you don't get to socialize with the other employees. You're basically isolated. You're working from home or you're constantly traveling. So that can be a negative there to some person who like to socialize. The other disadvantage here is that distractions. You can be distracted from home. You're working from home, you can be distracted. The children crying, the neighbor crying, your pet crying, and you gotta go and look after them, and you don't find any motivation to do any work. So that can be a distraction to telecommuters. Now, what are the social concerns when it comes to IT in the workplace? Well, the widespread of information systems has led to a more efficient way of working and to decreasing the hours that many people have to work. So it decreases the amount of hours people have to work because, as mentioned, you can work from home, you carry out tasks faster because of technology. Now, this allows more time for people to spend on leisure pursuits. So, without a second thought, millions of people use their personal computers, devices, information systems, such as voice recorders. The growth of telecommunications, including the internet, has led to a situation where people can share information in a global village. So the global village is a term that refers to basically everyone in the world, because now we are all interconnected. Everyone is connected to the internet. You can basically reach anyone in the world. We are now a global village. Distance is no longer an issue because you can communicate with anybody anywhere around the world. Now, there's a disagreement about the effects on young people spending a long time using computers and playing computer game. There are advantages to this, and yes, there's disadvantages to this. So some people argue that prolonged use makes youngsters withdrawn, they're less socializing, whereas others argue that when you play games, you develop problem solving skills, you develop collaboration and teamwork. So it depends on how you look at it. Games can either have a positive effect on you, or it can have a negative effect on you. Now, what are some of the health concerns? Seems you're enjoying it. So, what are some of the health concerns? Millions of people use computers regularly for work, education, and leisure. As with other equipment, computers should be used safely and in a way that doesn't harm users' health. This is important as there is an evidence that using a computer for a long time or not properly using computer equipment or furniture can affect health and result in injury. So you could get headaches from looking at your screen for too long. You could get shoulder pain, back pain, neck pain because you're not sitting properly. You're not resting your back properly. You're not resting your hand properly. You're not resting your shoulder properly, and so on. Now, one form of health issue is repetitive strain injury. What is that? Aches and pains, swelling, and difficulty of movement are all symptoms of disorders affecting fingers, wrists, arms, neck, can be caused by lengthy or improper use of computer. The common name for this disorder is repetitive strain injury. RSI can be extremely painful and caused by long and regular periods of typing, using the mouse, or even poor workstation setup. So you're constantly typing on the keyboard, you're constantly using the mouse, you're not sitting properly. Those are all effects can cause repetitive strain injury. How can we prevent them? Take regular break. Take short 5 to 10 minutes break every 1 hour. Put the mouse in a position that is going to be comfortable. Basically, put all of the equipment in a position that is going to be comfortable for you to use and operate. Hold the mouse loosely. Don't grip onto the mouse and then your hands stick in that one position. Use the armrest on your chair. Rest your hand. Be comfortable. Arrange your desk in such a way that the keyboard is easy to use. All the equipment is easy to use. It's easy to look at the system. Make sure there is enough space in front of you to rest your hand. Take regular breaks. Stretch. Move your hand. Basically, move around when you're using the system. Try to relax. Don't be tensed up, because when you're tense and you make a sudden movement, that's when you can cause injury. Now, what causes back problems? Something that all of us suffer from. Now, this is when we have poor or incorrect posture when we're using our equipment or furniture. Pretty sure a lot of you are not bracing back right now. So, what can be done to stop this back problem? So, use a chair that is adjustable in height. It has swivel. It can tilt back with so that you can rest your back and your neck. Make sure that the chair is at the correct height so that you can basically what you want is that the arm is at a certain level that it's comfortable to use the mouse and the keyboard. So the chair has to be raised to the correct height. Sit in a comfortable position. Regularly change the way you sit. Change your posture. Use a large desk that is going to have enough space for all your equipment. And once again, take frequent break. Eye problems. So eye strain is the most common health problem linked to computer screens, because we're looking at them for a long period of time. So ensure that you do not have poor lighting, you don't get any glares, you're not sitting too close, you're not sitting too far. You're sitting just right to look at the computer screen. Whenever you're creating something, whenever you're looking at something, ensure the size of the font, the color, it's comfortable for you to look at. Um, what can be done for reducing eye strain? Ensure your monitor is not flickering. Don't have your brightness too high. Don't have your contrast too high. Don't have it too low, easy. Too low also. Ensure your monitor can be tilted and swiveled to a comfortable position. Avoid any glare and reflection. Don't put your monitor, your screen to reflect the light from a light that you would have in your ceiling or the light that is coming in from the window. Always be comfortable. Stress. How can we relieve stress? Using computers and having your work monitored by computers can be stressful. All modern communication technologies such as email, portable notebook computers, and mobile phones mean that some people cannot take proper breaks as they always contacted immediately. This too can be stressful. So, if you notice, there is no method here of preventing stress because stress affects persons differently. But basically, it's the same methods that are being mentioned before. Ensure you take break. Ensure you stretch. Ensure you move around and so on, that you relax your body so that you do not tense up and be stressed. Environmental concerns. What are those? How can we prevent them? The widespread adoption of information system has also had environmental effect. On the one hand, the need to power millions of computers has increased electricity consumption, while on the other hand, consumption for electricity and other forms of energy are reduced as computers carefully control air conditioning and heating system. So on one hand, we get a lot of computers, electricity gone up. But on the other hand, we develop systems that monitor in other systems so that we do not waste electricity for them. So in that situation, electricity usage went down. Now, information systems have enabled teleworking, which is the telecommuting we mentioned earlier. This can mean less travel to and from workplace and therefore reduction in traffic pollution. Although the age of truly paperless office is years away, so there's already been some saving on the use of paper. So that's a environmental concern. Saving your information on the computer, don't print it, save it on the system so that you have a digital copy, reducing the economic footprint there. Legal, ethical, moral effects. The legal, ethical, moral effects of information system will continue to be an area of concern. A great deal of personal information is held on computers. All your images, all your videos, all your text messages that you send to persons. The Data Protection Act tries to ensure that personal information is held and processed responsibly. Laws have been passed to try to stop hacking and pirating, which is the stealing of software, and all of this raises some important ethical and moral issues. How far should the law go in giving government officers, such as the police, access to everybody's personal data? So does the police have right to access all your personal data? That's an ethical issue there. How far should established and new technologies such as CCTV, smart cars, and monitoring people, how far should it go in being able to monitor persons? What can you record about a person? And what will happen to people who cannot afford or buy computer systems? That's an ethical issue. We're constantly developing, we're constantly moving in the direction of technology. But what is going to happen to persons who cannot afford technology? That's an ethical issue there. Who are the workers in information technology? How do they make use of information technology? That's important to note. Office workers, they use word processing software, they use document preparation software, they use budgeting software, they use communication software, and then they must know basic hardware and software troubleshooting. Basically, the monitor stopped working, what are they going to do? Call for the technician? Or do they know how to fix it? Do they know how to troubleshoot it? Office employees must have those skills. Teachers, what skill must they have? must know how to use word processor, spreadsheet, database, presentation. They must know how to use a network, how to operate hardware, such as printers, scanners, projectors, and they must have those troubleshooting skills. Engineers, what skills do they have? Should they have? They must know how to use software programming. They must know how to install and hardware and software. They must know how to use different peripherals. They must know how to use sensors, controllers, graphics tablets. They must know how to use the various networks. Medical personnel, what skills do they need? They must know how to use a word processor, how to use consultation systems, how to use systems that would examine their clients, how to do inventory, how to prepare a budget, how to prepare a bill, how to claim insurance, how to use QuickBook, how to manipulate the hardware, how to use the various hardware that such as ultrasound machine, CAT scan machine, MRI machine. They must know how to use software for teleconferencing, like what we're doing right now. Musicians, what skills do they need? They must know how to use software that can record their music and prepare their lyrics, use the hardware device such as MIDI to produce their music, store and retrieve their music on storage media. Mass media personnel, what skills do they need? Same word processing skills, database skills, communication skills, hardware and software skills. Law enforcement personnel, document processing, database searching. The movie industry, what IT skills do they need? Same document processing. They must be able to know how to use a computer to create animations, to make their movies, using accounting and budgeting software so that they can account for all of their expenses. So each and every industry has some form of IT attached to it, and they must have some form of IT skill to function effectively in that industry. So lastly, we're going to look at what are some of the other personnels in the that's not lastly, second to lastly. Who are some of the persons in the IT related field? Very important to note. What are some IT related jobs? A computer support specialist. These persons, they provide technical assistance directly to the computer users who need assistance with a specific application. So if somebody got a problem with Word, somebody got a problem with spreadsheet, the computer support specialist is going to give their assistance. A computer programmer translates, analyze, prepares specification for software into algorithm, converts the algorithm into application programs. So they basically develop an application software. A systems analyst, what is their role? Analyzing systems currently in place to assess their suitability for computerization or recommends upgrade. The system analyst, their responsibility is to ensure that the company is using the right equipment, is using the right system, the system that is suitable, and that the current system that they have is capable of working for that company. What is the database administrator? Their responsibility is to look after the database. They design the database, create it, maintain the database. They also enforce the integrity and security of the database. Who are the network administrator? They're looking after the network. They design the network, develop the network, maintain the network, carry out maintenance for the network, set up access and security for the network, control the firewall and passwords for the network, protect the resources of the network. Who are the network engineers? They are looking after the hardware part of the network. The network administrator, even though they're designing and developing, it's more so of the software part of it, because they're looking at the security, which is the password and firewall, which is more software. The resources, they're monitoring the resources, who can access it. All of that is done software. So network administrator, it's software and hardware, but more so software. Whereas the engineer is looking more at the hardware faults, the malfunctions of the equipment to ensure the equipments are up to date and working. Who are the social media specialists? We know what is social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. So these persons are responsible for creating and sharing content on social media platform. So those actors that you're seeing, they might not have their own personal social media account. They're actually persons hired to look after or manage their accounts. Organizations and businesses, they hire persons to look after their accounts. Software developer, somebody who develops applications to carry out a specific task. A systems administrator, a person who is responsible for systems, which is basically the computer systems. They monitor and maintain the system security. If any new person comes on to the organization, they would add that user to the network, give them any necessary security permissions, and so on. And then finally, a web developer. You might see a webmaster or a web manager. They're used for building websites, writing codes that is going to be used for the websites, and so on. Publishing the websites, maintaining the website, everything to basically do with the website. So those are the personnels. Very important to remember examples of them, to give examples. Now finally, the implications of ICT, a very lengthy chapter. Alright, give me let's see. Yeah, so let's continue with the implications of ICT now. So, implications. We need systems in almost every aspect of human life to prepare meals, maintain cars, complete our assignments, travel to work, school, and so on. An information system. What is an information system? It is responsible for collecting, processing, and overall management and distribution of information. An information system is basically a computer system. It is just a normal computer, but it is used for collecting data, processing it, managing it, and distributing that data or information. Now, computers and communication devices can manage large amounts of information at a faster rate than manual systems, such as filing and sorting and mailing. So that's why we use computers today. They are much faster. When choosing a computer information system for a particular situation, you need to consider: one, what hardware do you need, such as the IPOS. What do you need as input? What type of processor do you need? But basically, we don't look at this here that much. What do we need as output, and what do we need to store? So whenever you are selecting a computer, you look at IOS. What do you need to input? What do you need to output? And what do you need to store? You can look at process, but almost every processor today can handle everyday tasks. So that's why we don't look at it so much. But you can consider it as like, if you're gonna do a heavy duty task, you basically get a more faster processor. Say in the exam, they could ask you questions like that. Recommend a system that is going to be suitable to this particular person. And these are some of the factors you look at when you recommend that system. You look at what hardware do they need: input, output, storage, and processing. Now, you look at the software now. What software do they need to carry out their tasks? Um, what kind of do they need spreadsheet? Do they need database? Do they need what kind of software basically do they need? General purpose, specialized, custom written. What software do they need? And then what do they need to process? What do they need to calculate? What do they need to do? Um, Human interface. How do they need to interact with the system in order to use it? So we looked at computer user interface in one of the previous chapter. A user interface is how you interact with the system. So how is this person going to interact with the system, this computer that you're trying to build? Are they going to interact with the system using a touch screen? Do they need to use a keyboard and a mouse? Or do they need to speak to the system? Like for example, Amazon Echo, Apple, and Alexa. Do they need to speak to it in order to interact with it? So that is the human computer interface. How is the person supposed to interact with it? That would also determine what hardware do you need. So basically you need a microphone. Now, which people are involved and what work they're gonna do? So, are they a medical person? Are they an engineer? Are they a video editor? They a graphics editor? Are they an AutoCAD engineer? Who are they? That would determine what kind of system you need and what data do they need. Do they need videos? Do they need graphics? Do they need um, what type of data? And that would determine how much storage they need basically. So the first 4 points were discussed in chapter 1. You can now apply this knowledge. So basically all the knowledge you have learned about all the various hardware, all the various software, all the various networks, those are used now to determine what kind of system would you recommend to a person that is to carry out a particular task. So, for example, what system would you need for commerce, education, law, enforcement, medicine, recreation, and so on? Now, advantage and disadvantages of a computerized system. What's the advantage of having a computer basically? You save paper and file and space. It's faster to calculate and store your data. Work is automatic. You can set it up to work automatically. Data is easily imported, so you can easily transfer data, scan data, put it into the system. You can easily also export that data, transfer it to another system. You can easily enter data. You can type it in quickly, you can scan it in quickly. And when computers are linked together in a network, more than one person can access the same information. So remember, whenever we have a network like this here, all of these persons, and we have a server here, all of these persons can access the information on this server here. So it's not just one person alone can access this information on this server. So that's an advantage there. But what's the disadvantage? Well, some systems can be complicated. They require a lot of time spent on staff training. You got to train the person how to use the server, train the person how to log in, how to use the software, and so on. The computers running the information system may not work due to electrical failure. So obviously, if they don't have electricity, the hardware damage, the software got the issue, you cannot function properly. And no work can be done if you don't have any power. So data may be incorrect. That's the issue there. The person typing the information wrong. The person scanned the information and it was wrong. That can affect the system. And some people may attempt to access confidential information. So all the information is on the computer, is on the network. So persons try to hack into these network to gain the personal information. Those are the disadvantages there. So businesses, how do businesses use computers? They use it for one, commerce. Commerce basically for carrying out transactions. Computer systems are used to make organizations more efficient, cost effective, and responsive to their customers. Popular areas such as research and development of new products and services, as well as marketing, monitoring of trends, it's all possible. because of computer systems. So businesses today, they can use information technology to market their product. They can use social media, advertise their product. They can use the search engines to do research. They can create surveys using Google Form to carry out research. They can sell their products online, all because of IT. Now, research and development. Computers in this industry analyze existing sales and the likely market for a new product. Appropriate hardware includes network and personal computers to process images, scan input design, printers, graph plotters for producing design, advertising signs. Special software programs are used to create the detailed designs for a product. So these are some ways they're using technology for development. They are using computers to create their graphics. They're using scanners when they create a design to scan it into the system. When they're finished designing, print that design, print the logo, print the poster. They're even using it to advertise and so on. They're using specialized software to create whatever they need for their business. All of that is possible because of IT. Another benefit of IT is stock management. During product development and manufacturing, each product must be monitored very closely. Keeping automated stock control system for any raw material purchase can ensure there is always adequate supply for the manufacturing process. The system may also provide early notice to reorder. Basically, the company sets up a computerized stock control system whereby a computer is going to manage the stock, which is basically the inventory. So you can know that, for instance, there's 20 cheese stick in stock. So when it reaches the level of 10 cheese stick in stock, it's going to send out a message. They're going to set up the system in such a way it sends out a message to the supplier, and it notifies the supplier before the amount reaches zero that they need to be restocked of this item here. All that is possible because of IT. Marketing and distribution. Marketing departments inform customers of new and existing products. We see this all the time on social media. We see a new product on social media. Companies use that for marketing. They can use computers to automate production of advertising material using word processing database. So they use computers to make make these advertising material, make the animation, make the posters, the videos, and so on, to create the vivid pictures of their advertising. How do they use it for sales now? You may know of small shops where computers are not used and goods are still priced individually by hand. However, prices change and the price labels must be changed. So, itemized receipts for the products sold sometimes can be handwritten, and checking the stock levels in the shop reordering is done by individual accountant. So that's what a normal corner shop would do. They do everything manually. But compare this with a business that uses a computer system. Goods do not need to be individually priced. They can put it into the computer system that this item is this price. They don't have to write a label on each price. This is because each item has a barcode, and you just swipe that barcode, and the point of sale system is going to provide the necessary information for that item. Remember, price is not in the barcode. Price is in the point of sale system. All items bought by a customer, they are automatically listed, added up, any discounts added. So basically, the item is going to have a barcode, and the barcode scanner scans that barcode, identifies the item, and the point of sale system is going to provide the necessary information. So that is why you see when you go in the supermarket, the items are flying across the counter, because all of this is being done automatically. Now payment can be done using credit card and debit card, so we get cashless transfer. Money is automatically transferred. A bill listing each item has been bought, is then printed and given to the customer, all possible because of technology. Now each checkout computer is going to be linked to a warehouse and the main computer system through a network. As the items are swiped through the barcode, this is important to note, this is how they link it to the inventory. As they swipe the item through the barcode, the stock level of each item is automatically updated. So every time they swipe the item, they already know that 20 cheese stick is in the inventory. When they swipe the item and one was just sold, it get depleted by one. They swipe another cheese stick, get depleted by another one. And that's how the system is automatically updated. And when the item gets too low, it automatically reorders it. The system is set up in such a way, it automatically sends out a message. Now, hardware and software for commercial applications. So the industries now, what hardware and software do they need? What are they going to use it for? So marketing and distribution. This is basically automated direct mailing to customers of new products. So they tell customers of their new products. What are they going to need? A high quality printer for printing the flyers and advertising the material. What software do they need? They need inventory control system so that they can monitor the levels of supply. Sales. What are they going to use technology for? Monitoring of stock levels, the instant of payment of goods with the credit card and debit card. What hardware do they need? They need a point of sale system. They need the physical debit and credit card. What software do they need? The software to carry out the e-commerce and selling direct to customers. Banks. They use technology for electronic money transfer. What hardware do they need? The physical ATM, that's a hardware. What software do they need? The ATM needs a software. The bank itself needs a software to carry out all of those activities. Good. So how does the banking industry make use of technology now? Funds are instantly credited and debited from customers' accounts. The ATM, the network, automated teller machines allow customers to withdraw cash, check their account balance. Credit and debit card allow customers to buy goods and services at retail outlets with the purchase costs automatically debited or deducted from the customer's account. You can do online banking, replacing the need for checks. Customers can access online banking with their computers and their mobile device. Services offered by the bank. You can check your bank balance online or through some sort of software or ATM machine. You can transfer money between accounts. You can pay bills online. You can view your bank statement. You can apply for a new account. All of that can be done online. Education. How is IT being used in education? Well, in databases, in schools, the collection and organization of student information is made more efficient by using a database. Remember, the database is used to store information, used to store data. So organizations like schools and colleges, university, they store a lot of data on students. They can use the database to store those information. Teaching and instruction. Software designed specifically for instruction available for students and teachers. We have computer aided instruction, CAI, and computer aided learning. These are software can be purchased for many subjects and cater for students of any age. Students can use them to study topics at their own pace, take practice tests, monitor their progress as they move from one topic to another. So developing software for educational purposes, for learning purposes. We have software such as Moodle, which helps with group work, Even if the group members they're not located in the same area, you can still work together because the tool is online. Using online software, instructors can also monitor online quizzes, evaluate the results. So we can do quizzes online, tests online, have classes online like right now. With so much information available on the internet, information or even complete essays can be found or purchased from others. So whole assignments can be obtained from the internet, and we all know that is illegal because that is plagiarism. Taking a person's work or idea and putting it as your own, that is plagiarism, that is illegal. But it is possible because of the internet, because information can easily be shared. Now, some schools and universities they would expel students, and even their certificates would be voided because of those actions. Um, in education, we use hardware such as the computers, the network, the projectors, printers, earphones, microphone, all for educational purposes. In medicine, how do they make use of technology? Uh, the more important ones found in medical research, which includes online medical information, online health services. So maybe you can consult with a doctor online now. Um, Medical research involves using medical models, information systems, which study the human body, as well as storing details of patients and illness. So you have a database storing information on their patients. And even with these medical models, they can have technology that studies how a virus works or how what some sort of medication work, all because of technology. They can have a model create in software how was the reaction this particular drug or something virus might have on something. So medical information systems. Most doctors today use medical information system to keep details of the patients and the illnesses. Patient information can be brought up on the computer screen while they see the doctor. So they quickly type in the person name, pull up the information. The medical information program, apart from having your name, address, age, will also have a record of your illness and any drugs you would have given. Remember, we talked about this earlier. Hospitals have all this information about you, but the ethical issue now is what are they going to do with this information? Are they going to keep it private or are they going to sell it to somebody? Now, once the doctor has found out the cause of the illness and has entered the prescribed medication, the computer can print a prescription and then you take it to the pharmacist. And sometimes the prescription could actually be sent automatically, electronically, to the pharmacy via their network. So that's how they can incorporate technology there. The doctor creates the prescription and sends it over to the pharmacist. So you can't go and forge the prescription now because it was sent automatically to them. Now, other medical health services such as imaging and ultrasound services, they can be connected to a network along with those of medical professionals and pharmacists so that they can see the information and consult the information and make recommendations and so on. So patient information together with the test results, they can be shared via the network, and then you can get medical personnel across the world who can consult on these information here. So say for instance, how COVID appeared in a certain part of the world, it started off there. They could have easily shared the results from a certain patient with all medical persons in the world so that other doctors can start studying it and be able to learn how it works and what can be done about it, all because of technology. Now, what is an expert system? The expert system is one example of artificial intelligence. Another name for expert system is artificial intelligence, which is basically AI. It is designed to store a vast amount of data, which is called a knowledge base. So, once again, an expert system is called an AI, artificial intelligence, and it stores a large amount of data called a knowledge base. And it uses this data to carry out certain applications. Now it draws on this data along with certain rules for processing to come up with predictions. So that's the purpose of the AI. It tries to analyze the data you give it to try to figure out what could possibly be the outcome, the next result, based on the data that it already has. So in the medical field, the expert system can be used to provide a diagnosis. So say for instance, the expert system, the AI, you could give it a set of illnesses and all the symptoms and all the necessary information that occurred with it. And what you can do now is enter in, if you get a new patient, you enter in what's the symptoms, what's the whatever's happening with the person, and it can give you some of the possibilities of what is happening with that person. So it gives you a prediction so that you don't have to go and analyze it yourself. The system now is analyzing it and telling you what's the possibility, all because of technology. Medical models now. Now, modern medical whole body scanners can collect a large amount of data about a person's internal systems. So the data collected can be processed on a special computer. So we talk about MRI, ultrasound, and so on. It can be processed on a special computer using a customized software to produce a three-dimensional model of the whole body or a part of it. And then this information is usually collected as a series of slices. The program glues the slices together to make a three-dimensional model. And this model allows doctors to locate precisely, for example, a tumor, and help them decide what to do next. So the system allows them to, because of technology, they can scan a person and be able to diagnose that person. Now, because of technology also, we have virtual reality simulations. Virtual reality is basically like those virtual reality headsets, which gives us another reality, a perception of another reality. This uses software applications to create an artificial environment, which gives users the feeling that they are part of that environment or reality. A special headset fits around the user's face, covering the eyes and sometimes the ears to block all sights. So basically, they're trying to trick the person into thinking that that's the environment. So if you ever went to Giflan and you see those sets that they put over your head and they put you in that ride, and to give you the perception that you're on some sort of train ride or roller coaster, that is a virtual reality simulation. Other images and sounds are then used to make the virtual world more realistic. So users' sight and hearing, those two senses, those are what they mostly use in virtual reality. But then the same system at Giflan, when they use motion and so on, it even tricks you further because it tricks your senses into thinking that the reality is real. However, some programs use touch as another method, sense for a realistic experience. As an example, surgeons can now be trained to perform surgical procedures without endangering life. Virtual reality model can be created and a trainee surgeon can perform the operation. So it's like how we have flight simulator. We have flight simulator, which gives us the perception as though we are flying a plane. We can also have doctor simulator, which gives us the perception that we are actually operating upon a person. So persons can actually be trained using these technologies now. For those of you who might not know what's a VR headset, This is what a VR headset would look like. It would cover the eyes, and some would even cover the ears, like this one here. Would even cover the ears to give us that perception, to deceive us into thinking it is reality. Now, the sensor and control systems connected to the operator can give feedback to the surgeon. So it will have sensors and control, like for instance, like vibrations and motions and so on, to give the person some feedback, giving them the illusion that it is real. Now, the feedback can be visual through the imaging system, but more important, the feedback gives a sense of touch. This will help the surgeon to master safe manipulation of the surgical instruments. Now, virtual reality is used in actual surgery. For example, in the 3D image of the brain tumor can be created from a series of slices produced by scanning the affected brain using a magnetic image resonance imaging. Virtual reality can also be used in training simulations, for example, pilots, deep sea divers, interactive games, and so on, as I just showed you. Now, law enforcement, how do they make use of technology? Computer systems help security forces around the world in their fight against crime. Millions of criminal records are held on computer databases, so they record all the criminal records. Each year, computer technology is used to process requests for information from police officers who find information about suspect. So if they need to get a certain information about a certain person, they can make that request via technology. Searching for crime statistics, they can create statistics using the data that they have. Storing criminal record, accessing the database in another country, communicating with mobile units are just some of the uses we can use computers for. Now, this information can be provided to officers in seconds. Regional security systems also have networks that participate in countries in the regions to share surveillance information. So they can set up surveillance information and be able to share it with a wide variety of persons. Now, a fingerprint system can provide fast access to database of convicted criminals' fingerprint, as well as marks collected from scenes of crime. So basically, they have a database of all of this information, and the necessary persons can access these data. So this allows the police to search the records to find matches for crime scene marks and confirm the identity of anyone arrested. Hardware includes fingerprint scanners, portable handheld computers, PDA, personal digital assistant, printers, digital cameras. These are all made use of persons in the law enforcement field. Now, what about driver licensing databases? By law, all drivers of vehicles on public roads must have a driving license. A computerized driving license system can issue driving license and vehicle registration documents. So they keep a database of all persons and their license and their registration, and automatically renew it, send it to the person, and so on. Details on every driver and every vehicle can be kept on a computerized database. So if anybody breaks the law, they're speeding, they can record the number plate and be able to know who is the person. Apart from licensing drivers and vehicles, the database can be accessed by the police in the fight against crime. If these millions of drivers and vehicles records were paper-based, it would take minutes or hours to find the information needed. And by using the computer, it can be found in seconds. Compared with a paper-based system, computer information systems are particularly impressive when carrying out searches across different categories. Now, how do we use technology in recreation and entertainment? Well, the main way, playing games. Computer games is a multi-million dollar industry. Software producers are constantly striving for ideas for teams and concepts for the consumers. Computer hardware can be configured to suit gameplay and specification. We get powerful graphics card, sound systems, high resolution monitor, powerful CPUs, and so on. We even have consoles dedicated to playing games. And then we talked about virtual reality being employed in games. For example, programs include a physical device that can be attached to a computer, such as a tennis racket. So for those who have ever used the uh, the Wii console, the Nintendo Wii, that is a good example of using technology. Now, both players will be seen moving the ball in real time. You swing the racket, and it's going to be moving the virtual racket in the game, thus hitting the ball, thus giving you a more entertainment game. In multimedia, we can play music, watch movies. Many internet users, we can download music, download movies from the internet, um, play CDs and DVDs. Most multimedia computers. We have special players designed for playing music. For the music industry, we have software that can be used for DJ controllers, for blending music together, along with music software programs. These devices include sound effect devices. They use special buttons and components to add effects to their music. They provide better control of the software containing the playlists of songs than having the computer keyboard and the touchpad. So they have equipment specialized for selecting the various music. The movie industry, they have computers that be used to create special effects in the movie scenes. There are also movies that have been exclusively made by computers. So all of those animations that you're seeing, they are made exclusively by computers. This requires the use of graphic workstations. So a workstation is basically a type of computer that is built to be dedicated for a particular task. So for example, a graphic workstation is a system that it has the necessary components for carrying out graphical work. And they have powerful multi-core processors so that they can process data quickly and produce high quality graphics. So that is it for our third topic there, the implications and the misuse of cybersecurity there. Alright, any questions, suggestions, recommendations, comments before we close off for tonight? Nothing?
No, sir.
Alright.